Hi, Michael Scott Overholt here. As I've learned to navigate major personal and professional changes in the past couple of years, there's a song that's come to mean a lot to me. It's the 2011 song Walk by the Foo Fighters from their album Wasting Light. The heart of the song can be found in these words: Learning to walk again. I believe I've waited long enough. Where do I begin? Obviously, the meaning here of walk is metaphorical. The speaker is considering what it's like to learn something a second time after a lot of life has passed. Dennis Barry is a life coach who primarily works with people grappling with addiction. He talks about the task of unlearning behaviors that have been propped up and buttressed by coping mechanisms we've developed over the years. Unlearning, as he describes it, corresponds with this personal reinventing that I keep hearing from people, whether the cause is life post-pandemic or, as in my case, major life reconfigurations. Unlearning parts of ourselves that didn't serve us well is difficult, like we're learning to walk again. Anabasis is the ancient Greek word for the inward journey or the ascent, and in this episode I'm venturing into the world of coaching with Dennis Barry, who's living the digital nomad's dream in beautiful Moorea, South Pacific island that's part of French Polynesia Society Islands archipelago. Dennis has one of those warm, kind personalities that disarms you, and I was privileged to talk with him several weeks ago about his coaching philosophy, the constancy of change in life, and this idea of unlearning as a means to living fuller, less stressful lives. I hope you enjoy.
Absolutely. It's not so much about learning, it's about unlearning. We've been conditioned since birth to really fit into this mold, right? In order to be safe. But we are safe. That's the thing, you're safe. It's okay. Go out and be you, be happy, take chances, and just simplify your life. Yeah. So Dennis Barry, life coach, addiction recovery is my background because I've been sober almost 20 years now. I was a crazy maniac party guy when I was in my 20s. I was an old skier. I lived in the mountains, and I became a chef so I could, finance my drug and alcohol habit essentially, and ski every day and work every night. And it worked out for my lifestyle for a while, but then until it didn't, right? And then at that point, I was 31 years old. I was, 70 pounds overweight, unhappy, unhealthy. I didn't know how to fix my life. And I lost my job at the end. And that really bummed me out. It really made me sad because I was proud of that job. So I ended up in a treatment facility, and that was 19 and a half years ago. And I haven't looked back. It's been painful and awful, but the first few years were really difficult. And because it's not about not drinking, it's about growing up and becoming mature and looking the world in the eye and taking care of responsibilities and just being an adult, which I had no experience with. So I had to do that, and it was painful. So what I do now is I help people not have to suffer for so much for so long. And if we can shorten that learning curve, shorten the pain, that's what I do.
What is your coaching philosophy? And you can read philosophy in the sense of like a system of thought. It doesn't have to be really abstract, but something that helps you achieve your coaching goals with your clients.
Yeah, what a great question. I've never been asked, and I've been on hundreds of shows, and I've never been asked that specifically. It's really great. And what I've come up with is that as humans, it's our intrinsic nature to be happy. We're supposed to be happy. We're not supposed to be so full of stress and fear and anxiety and paranoia on a daily basis. And life has become that. The world that we live in now has created that. But it's not our way that we're supposed to be. If you look at, we're just creatures, animals on this planet, right? We happen to be able to talk and have other capabilities that most animals don't have, or a lot of others don't. But we're supposed to be happy. We're supposed to find something to eat, find a mate to be with, because we like being with a companion and have somebody to share time with. And really, like, that's it. Like, stay warm and be comfortable, find a way to be comfortable. But we've been able to create all this technology to this convenience in our life, but it causes so much pain. So now where I live far away in a more primal place, in a more secluded, quiet, what I call the real world type of place. And there's a lot less struggle. People are happy, and really there's no traffic. There's very few sirens and screaming and the lawnmowers, the leaf blowers, the artificial noises that make us sick. And there's no stress, and that's my philosophy. It's like, life isn't supposed to be as hard as we make it. In fact, we were kind of talking before air. It's like, well, we want to talk about, how do you find what are your dreams? Well, I want 20 million in the bank. Well, I don't think you need 20 million in the bank. It depends. Like, if you want to buy a $1 billion yacht, and if there's certain things you want to do, then you need more than that. But some of it is unattainable. And why do you want that? Like, I don't say that that's unattainable. I say that's an umbrella goal. That's great. Let's keep that there and let's shoot for it. But what are we going to do right now? Let's focus on right now. We can get back to that another time. And when we start doing what's right now, we realize we don't need that necessarily, and that we need a lot less than we think we do in order to be happy. So my philosophy is that it's like to enjoy your days. And I think a very holistic approach to it all. And what does holistic mean? It's a very big buzzword that people throw around. Holistic, is it this spiritual thing? What is that? It just means whole. HOL was an old English word. It means whole. That's it. It means that we meditate, we drink water, we eat well, we learn new things, we read, we write, we take care of our body, mind, and spirit, and then we become happier. And then we don't need all those addictions and distractions, I call them: the alcohol, the drugs, the coffee, the mindless scrolling, the whatever you're feeling, the porn, the Netflix binges, all these things that we're doing to distract ourselves from the fear. So that's really my philosophy in a nutshell.
And it sounds like it's more of a simplifying process that you're promoting. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's not so much about learning, it's about unlearning. We've been conditioned since birth to really fit into this mold, right, in order to be safe. But we are safe. That's the thing. You're safe. It's okay. Go out and be you. Be happy. Take chances, and just simplify your life, and you'll find that you'll become happier almost immediately.
And so when that's really fascinating. So when I hear you say unlearning, what I hear you say is unlearning kind of like your mindless habits that aren't serving you well.
Beautiful. That's well said. So unlearning our harmful beliefs and behaviors that were ingrained in us, that were taught to us. We didn't come out full of fear. We were taught fear. We didn't come out full of hate and anger. We're taught those things, right? And so it's unlearning these old, whatever it is. Oh, you can't be the president, or why would you want to be in politics? But you can't be the president. You can't be this. You can't start a business. You can't write a book. You can't lose weight. Those are all things that we tell ourselves because that's what people tell us. So we believe it. So we have to unlearn those conditioned responses, those conditioned responses that we have to this big, scary world that isn't as scary as we make it. That's what I'm talking about. Unlearning old behaviors. And it's like finding out on a regular basis. And this is why you need a coach. And you know why you need a coach? Because we all do. And this isn't me selling my coaching services. This is me saying, I was taught to have an expert in every area of your life, right? So I'm not, if I have to go to court, I need a lawyer. If I get sick, I need a doctor. I'm not a spiritual giant. I need some help, right? And why not? It's like, if I can find the answers to the things that are causing me to suffer, then I'm free to have a nice day, right? So ask for help. That's one of my biggest philosophies, is always, it's so simple. If you don't know something, ask for help and you'll get there sooner. We were programmed to be a certain way, and now we're in 2022 on top of it all, and we are so unfocused. That's really our biggest problem, is we're unfocused. There's so much. Everybody says that poor kid has ADD. We all have ADD, all of us. It's impossible. It's nearly impossible nowadays to stay laser focused on any one thing and do it well. You know, it started, when did it start? 30, 40 years ago. You have to be a good multitasker to have a job, right? It was on everybody's resume. I had it on mine. I'm an excellent multitasker. It's all bullshit. There aren't any good multitaskers. That means you're doing something half well while you're doing something else, or 5 other things. You know, we're looking at checking our email, and then the Facebook dinger goes off and my phone reminder goes off, and then the boss is yelling or the kids are screaming. We're trying to do too much. And, you know, so what I do with my practice is that we want to get laser focused on one thing. And there's a popular book called The One Thing, and that's what I do. But what I do is the best way to describe it is New Year's resolutions. So every New Year's, they're like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, write a book, start a business, improve my relationship, and do this, right? And in 10 days, we're overwhelmed. And so we're like,
give 10 days, right?
Yeah, 7 days, 10 days. So I'm going to eat chocolate cake and get drunk, and I'm going to do whatever. And then next year, it's the same 5 New Year's resolutions on that list. And why is that? Because we're trying to do too many big things at once. Now we're adults. We have to take care of responsibilities, pay our bills, and take care of ourselves. And so you have to be able to do that as an adult if you want to live in the big, crazy world we live in. But only one major goal at a time. So what I do is, when we start working together, we look at our life in those big areas. You know, how is my body? How are my family relationships, my sex life, my social life, my finances, my career, and my spiritual life? That's pretty much life right there. There's those 7 things. So how do I feel about myself in those areas? And then how do I want to be in each of those areas? And so we just creating specific goals. Now we pick the one that's going to change our life the most, and we tackle it head on. And that's the one thing. We can't work on 5 major things at once and get them done at a high level, or we end up quitting, or we end up drinking, or we end up watching porn, or overeating, or shopping with money we don't have, or at Chick-fil-A at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in between meals when we're not even hungry, but there's a lapse in the day because we don't know what to do. So we just need to get laser focused and have accountability. And that's kind of what I do with my mindset. And then to take it a little further, everything we're talking about right now, up until this point in the last 10, 15 minutes, which is a lot, goes back to, we said unlearning. It goes back to our childhood wounds, right? I don't know if you ever explored that much, but our childhood wounds really are the basis of all of our, you know, quote unquote problems. And we all have them. Every single one of us are wounded. And it's okay. That's what I want to say. I want to preempt this whole thing with, it's okay.
I've often talked to coaches about the difference between coaching and therapy, and how do you navigate that? Because, you know, some of the things that you just mentioned, we would often go to a therapist for, you know. So how do you navigate those from a coach's perspective, or do you have a therapist? Do you have a therapist background as well?
No, I don't. My coach does. and he has a therapist background, and we worked on this too. And I don't get too deep into the trauma aspect because there's certain qualifications that you're supposed to have for that. So I don't get too deep into that, but we can't mask over it. And it's just more about bringing attention to it and doing some specific exercises to work through it. And it's more about, okay, well, here's a list of behaviors that I'm doing that I'm using to cover up my abandonment wounds or my rejection wounds, my wounds of betrayal. And just really, I give homework, right? And I think one of the differences of what you're talking about with coaching and therapy, therapists, there's a lot of talk therapists. Like we go, they analyze, they sit there, they ask a lot of questions to pull out this this pain or whatever it is you're going through. And then they use certain techniques to kind of find a path through it. What I do is I give specific homework, and it usually involves reading, writing, like I said, the holistic approach, the meditating, the exercising. And when we do those things, we realize that these paralyzing conditions that we think that we have, they kind of melt away because we're taking care of ourselves on a root level, on the root. What I started by saying all this is like, it's our intrinsic nature to be happy. So let's work towards that. Let's backtrack. Okay. Why am I not, if I was born happy, why am I not happy now? What happened? So let's back out of that and see, okay, well, you know, I went through a terrible divorce a couple of years ago. It was really painful. Okay. So how did I deal with that? Well, I wrote her a lot of letters, you know, that I never sent her. It was a part of my forgiveness process, because when we separate, we go into a lot of blame. You know, there's blaming, complaining. She did that. He did this. I'm hurting here, and they don't care. They don't understand. They're not help, whatever it is. So we have to find a way through all of that, because there's no healing while we're blaming, complaining, or accusing. So when we write the letters, we start seeing the insanity of some of our thoughts. Now, I'm not saying insanity as you're insane, you're bad, or you're whatever. I'm just saying that the harmful thoughts that we have, which are conditioned responses that we've had for our whole lives, we need to find a way through those. And I think that a lot of people get to the pain. Like we get to the pain. We don't get through the pain. And when we get to the pain without getting through the pain, that's where addictions come from. That's where all these other distractions and problems mount. And so it's really about just peeling the layers back.
If you feel like you're like a client needs like more therapy as opposed to coaching, you have people you refer them to. Is that how you often handle that?
Totally, yeah. So I can't prescribe, I can't suggest drugs or any of that stuff. And in my opinion, really, I don't think most of us need those things. But I've had suicidal people, I've had homicidal people, I've had real people with some real trauma and PTSD that I've referred out before, 100%. Because one, I'm not qualified to handle that, and two, it's a little heavy for me, right? And I try to keep it light. I stay within my personality as well. I have great relationships with my clients. They trust me, and they can, because I'm there. Like I want to provide that atmosphere, that safe atmosphere for them to open up and just become all around happier, more peaceful, and successful.
I have a classics background, so when I saw that you had a post that's quoting the Greek pre-Socratic philosopher Heraclitus, I had to ask a question about it. You targeted his famous mantra, "Change is the only constant in our lives." And we could read the post. It's not a very long one, but I'd like to go deeper because it looks to me like this difficulty is something that your coaching clientele are often wrestling with. Is that correct?
100%. Yeah.
How do you help people come to grips with this only constant, this idea of change being the only constant in life?
Yeah, that great question. I love your questions. You're a really great interviewer, by the way.
Thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate that.
yeah. Well, I think a lot of a lot of times when I'm full of fear, stress, anxiety, or whatever my problem of the day is, it's because the world has changed and I haven't changed along with it.
Hmm.
You know, the world is constantly changing. So this is a really fun speech I used to talk about. It's like, we're born, right? And the doctor smacks us on the ass. So we start crying. I mean, we were just really comfortable. We're in mom's belly. We're being fed constantly. It's nice and warm. And then when they pull us out and there's big, scary world and we get slapped on the ass and we start screaming, we're like, oh my God, what just happened? Everything was so perfect. So mom cuddles us or whatever happens next happens. And then we start growing a little. And then we start crawling. And then we bump our head into the wall. And we learn how to not do that anymore. And then we stand up and start walking and we fall down and we start crying and we learn to not fall down anymore. And then we start talking to people and then we make more mistakes and we find ways to not make those same mistakes. And every time we make a mistake, we start crying. So as we get older and we don't have the same rules. We don't have to go to school. We don't have to act a certain way at the dinner table or talk a certain way. Then we kind of find a way to be comfortable. So we don't have to cry anymore because crying is painful. All that change, all that learning and growing, it's painful. So as we get older, we seek comfort. And if we seek comfort for too long, eventually we find like if we'll be laying in bed in the morning with the sheets over our head, afraid to get out of bed because the big scary world changed and I didn't change along with it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important. Another good reason why we have accountability partners in our lives, coaches, mentors, therapists, whatever you want to call it, to help pull us through those changes so we don't stay stagnant. Because really, most of the fear, insecurity, pain, heartache, or whatever is because we're stagnant. People that start businesses, I've started many, a lot of them have failed. But when you start a business, it's constant growth. It's constant growth and change. I was taught you have to zig when everyone else is zagging, but we don't always know which direction to go. And you have to keep growing and learning. And when we don't, then we think we're failing and we fall behind. And but even in your job or in your marriage, relationships, I mean, finance and romance, those are always the biggest problems in the world. So if we're not continuing to grow in those areas, then we struggle. Right. So we have to learn to cope with change and even embrace change and make change our friend. Be like, wow, this is great. I get to change. And why isn't that great? Because if I embrace it and grow with it, it improves me as a person, as a businessman, as a lover, a partner, and a friend. But that's an old mindset, is like getting comfortable. Our subconscious wants us to stay comfortable. It wants us to stay right where we are, right? Our conscious mind says, I'm not going to drink today. I'm not going to eat that cake. I'm not going to overspend. I'm not going to watch porn. And my subconscious mind, as soon as I get overwhelmed, says, no, I know you're overwhelmed now. Let's go get something to eat. Let's go to happy hour. Let's watch porn. And we do what our subconscious mind says because we've been programmed to do that for a long period of time. So we can undo that. We can reprogram our subconscious mind. We can realign the neural pathways, but it takes longer than a week of making some changes here and there, doing a little writing to undo 30, 40 years of behavior.
What are some projects that are in the forefront of your mind, or what are some things that you're really excited about that you're working on?
The biggest one right now, what I started about 1.5 years ago, and if you look on my website, I have a category. It's called Life Mastery School. But what we're doing, we're starting a group class starting in September 20th, I believe, on codependency, how to shatter codependency. And in there, we're going to talk about a lot of the things that we were just talking about here, but really on how to take care of yourself and the difference between being selfish and taking care of yourself, and establishing healthy boundaries, and how to cope or exit painful relationships.
Thank you, Dennis, for taking time to talk with me. Dennis has a new 4-week group course coming up in the fall on overcoming codependency. You can find more about this course as well as other one-on-one coaching opportunities at dennisbarry.com. If you found this conversation beneficial, please subscribe to my podcast so you don't miss an episode. On October 5th, I'll drop the next one with Brazilian-born Maria Vieira, who has lived in many of the world's most influential cities and now resides in beautiful Portugal. Thank you for listening.